Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back on another episode of the Daily Recap. It has been way too long, but we are back. I'm excited to be here. Market open, market close, and the Daily Recap every single day. I'm sorry I could not do it last week. I think we went like almost 3 weeks in a row of not missing a day, and then last week travel and kind of messed up the ability to do it every single day. It was just impossible to get a show out in the afternoon. We couldn't even do the market close, but we are back for the next 3 months. I'm doing pretty much zero traveling, so I will be in this studio every single day, bricked up in the morning, in the afternoon, and ready for the Daily Recap. Very excited to be back, and thank everybody for joining the show today. We got a lot to talk about. Tesla, 3:15 after hours, updates on what has happened with the Tesla-Trump-Elon relationship, so we'll discuss more about that. Robinhood, some of the most bullish updates you could ever imagine for Robinhood. We'll talk about all the S&P drama that was on Friday, but today we got some big updates that's very important to discuss. China updates in terms of this U.S. trade deal. Can we get that trade deal in place? Can we go further from there? We'll talk more about Palantir. We will obviously talk about Apple, which had WWDC today, which there were some updates that were interesting, some updates that really the street didn't really care about. So we'll talk about that. And then macro, some new updates on retail trading data. Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan putting out some research in terms of how retail is thinking of the current state of the markets. And we'll talk more about that and what it means for the broader S&P, hopefully getting to all-time highs. Back on the Daily Recap. Thank you for being here. Let's get into it. All right, let's start off with Tesla and what's going on with Elon and Trump. So last week was a pretty crazy week because Elon said Trump is on the Epstein list. He started accusing him of a ton of crazy things. He's since deleted all those tweets. And it kind of seems like he had a public lashing out against the president, which it was just weird, right? It was just like, why is this guy going after the president, given how much Trump has been able to do for him, how much credit he's been able to give him, how much, Doge, all this stuff. Now, obviously, Elon's mad about the big, beautiful bill. It's going to hurt deficit spending. He's mad about his pick for leading the NSA at NASA. Got rejected by Trump. So that was obviously not a good thing that Elon cared about because he wants to go to Mars. He wants to get the right people in place to help him get to Mars. So Elon kind of lashed out. He crashed out, as people would say publicly. Was he on drugs? Was he being manic? I don't think we're going to know. It does feel a little bit weird, obviously, that Elon would attack the president in such a way and then, decide that he's going to delete all these tweets. Was, do I think he's actually on drugs? No. But do I think it's like a weird form of like lashing out that he's doing, that maybe it's not drug induced, but maybe it's just stress or something like that? Yes, I do think there's something going on in his head because no one says, hey, Trump is in the Epstein files. It almost seems like a joke now. Like, is he? I don't know. None of us know for sure. But deleting that tweet 2 days later kind of proves that maybe Elon was just speaking without having any evidence right there. Nonetheless, Trump's response to all of this has been rather gracious. And this is unique because Trump is not a guy who tends to be gracious. He tends to be a guy who goes for the low blow. He tends to be petty. But with Elon, he's been rather gracious. Tesla stock fell to 274, 265, or 272 at the worst of it on Thursday. It's back to 315, still down from 360. Why did it pump today from about 290 to 315? Well, here's what Trump had to say about Elon.
Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually, about the Tesla.
I got so many locations, I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla.
Did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask.
did have an argument, but I didn't see. I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
Now, this statement to me, I think, was really important because basically Trump was saying, hey, I like Elon, and although our relationship might be fractured at the moment, I am still a fan of Elon, the person. And so he didn't go for a low blow, didn't say he's getting rid of Starlink, didn't say that, he's not open to any form of communication with Elon. I think there's a world where they kiss and make up. And quite frankly, if this stock is not trading on earnings, this stock is not trading on fundamentals, the stock is purely trading on momentum and robotaxi and optimism in the future, and people that are willing to buy the dip consistently on the stock, which quite frankly, the price action today makes me a bit more bullish about the stock. And this cult is so deep in terms of how they care and how they think about Tesla as a stock, and they're really willing to buy any dip, which that could be a reason why the stock stays elevated. The kissing and making up in this whole situation could also be something that keeps Tesla elevated for the long term as well. Now, look, the earnings are going to suck in Q2. At least my preliminary estimates do not show a good earnings. There's obviously headwinds. You got bad European sales. You got Cybertruck 0% APR. Doesn't really feel good for demand. You got rate cuts that are not necessarily priced in yet. I mean, if we do get a rate cut, that's awesome. But if you don't get a rate cut, that's going to still keep a high APR on the rest of their Tesla models, along with the fact that the EV tax credit is going away. When the big, beautiful bill passes, that's going to be $7,500 that people don't get as a rebate, along with high interest rates, which means it's just going to be hard to afford a Tesla. The only reason I bought my Tesla is because I got 0% APR and I got the $7,500 tax credit. The reason I got my dad a Tesla is because I also got that $7,500 tax credit. So there are numerical and logistical headwinds that obviously exist for Tesla. But the thing is, they've always existed for the past couple of years, definitely for the past couple of months. The stock has not cared in the midst of all of that. I mean, the most we felt was 212 in the month of April. That's when our boy Tim Waltz had some choice of words for Tesla, and things have gone up since then. So I don't know how the stock reacts in Q2, but the reason the stock is up right now, I think, is purely based on the fact that if the bromance is back on and the stock is trading on the bromance, and Elon and Trump have kissed and made up, which they haven't yet, but like, you know, Elon tweeting a heart underneath the picture of what Trump was talking about today. That also happened right here. You can see it on the screen. It's kind of like maybe they're going to get back together. Maybe it's going to not be that big of a deal. And if that is the case, then obviously that would be very beneficial for Tesla investors that need a healthy relationship with the president of the United States, who controls the contracts for SpaceX, the ability to streamline self-driving regulations, which would be good for the robotaxi, etc. Another reason Tesla went up today is because Tesla actually filed in the Austin DMV. The reason this is important is because they're going to be launching their robotaxi in the city of Austin in Texas, maybe this week. It was supposed to happen this week. They haven't really said it's going to happen this week yet. So, you know, we're still going to have to see how that plays out. But they filed to be a known autonomous vehicle operator in Austin. You can look it up on the Austin DMV website, which means that they're likely going to be bringing robotaxi pretty soon to the state or to the city. And that's obviously bullish for robotaxi, even if it doesn't happen this week, which people are saying it'll happen by June 12th. It might end up happening by the end of June. So you put all those things together. I know Tesla's down from 370, but still pretty damn bullish for Tesla. Pretty decent for the Elon relationship getting put together. I know the earnings suck. I know the numbers don't justify it. And I think sentiment, I mean, I know some friends who sold all their Tesla this morning. They were just so tired of what Elon's been doing and how they're putting up with him. And they're just kind of losing faith in him as a leader. I get it. I think those are legitimate reasons to be afraid of owning the stock right here. I also think that doesn't mean you necessarily sell before a robotaxi ramp up, which, yes, it might not hit the bottom line, but just the pure excitement of it alone could send the stock higher. And from that perspective, you got people that are divided. Tesla stock is down from 370, but it would not surprise me if we go anywhere near 270 again, or if we head back to 370 if this whole Trump-Elon relationship is mended. All right, next up, let's talk some macro. So we got a lot of stuff going on in the macro. Two things I want to talk about. Number one is what Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan said about retail trading data, which is for the month of May. So here's what they said, which I thought was pretty damn interesting. Retail in the month of May bought $23 billion of stock. It's a decent amount. $150 billion of net inflows in ETFs and stocks year to date from retail, and $6.8 billion of retail net inflows last week. $7 billion worth of stock. 65% of that went into Tesla, which is part of the reason, again, that Tesla maintains this momentum. Retail is just simply buying in. So what's interesting about this is that retail bought $23 billion of stock in the month of May. March and April, they bought $40 billion each. So they had $80 billion in those 2 months, $23 billion in May. It's consistent with the $25 billion average that we've seen for the first 5 months of the year. However, it's not as much as March and April. And the reason I think this is actually pretty damn bullish is because retail said, hey, we did all the buying. We did it. Like, we bought stock when Trump gave us our Liberation Day dip. Nvidia at 80, Palantir at 60, Robinhood at 29. I mean, like, people took advantage of that. And so from that perspective, I think this is actually pretty bullish to see that retail loaded up in March and April, is kind of relaxing with deploying the capital right now, because now they're asking the hedge funds to kind of pick up the slack. And based on the data that we're seeing right now, hedge funds are starting to take off their short positioning, which was the most aggressive since 2022. And they are buying stocks at the fastest level since May of 2023, particularly NASDAQ 100 tech stocks. So I think the bull market continues. I think the show continues. Tom Lee has been saying that this is a bull market that is getting new legs. I kind of agree with him right here, because if you think of the trade deal that's coming, if you think of interest rates that are inevitably coming, even if we're only going to get it towards the end of the year, and you think of earnings growth, which again was really good in Q1, hopefully we can keep that up in Q2, and you got retail that's ready to bid, it's just hard to imagine that this is the end of a bull market, or that it's the beginning of a bear market. Now, on top of that, the other piece of macro news we have this morning is with China. So the China-U.S. talks started today in London. It lasted for around 6 hours. Besant, Lutnick, and Greer represented the United States. Negotiations will resume at 10 a.m. tomorrow in London. So good set of talks today. They will have another set of talks tomorrow. Besant said that it was a good meeting. Those were his exact words. And Lutnick said the China-U.S. talks were fruitful. This to me is really bullish, dude. I know that we haven't had any major trade deals since the UK. I know that that India, South Korea, Japan, these have been promises and we haven't been able to get them. However, China's the big one. And if we get China, I think it'll set a framework for all these other deals. And if we at least begin the ability for China to meaningfully work with the United States in terms of coming up with a serious negotiation, not just like some pause on our tariffs, that's bullish for markets, and I think markets are going higher. So from that perspective, was a very, very good thing today to get those updates. I think we'll get more of those updates, and hopefully the talks go well tomorrow. Maybe S&P all-time highs is coming a little bit sooner than we think, and if it takes some time to get there, I think that's okay, but it's hard to imagine going back to 4,800 on the S&P. Let's talk about Nvidia now, because we talked about the China-US deal update, and what's really important there is the Wall Street Journal reported today that Trump has given Besant, our Treasury Secretary, the freedom to negotiate with China by using the sale of tech products in the United States as a bargaining chip. What that essentially means, the way I'm reading it, is that we sell technology to China. One of the biggest technology products that we sell are GPUs, chips, Nvidia. And the headline right here is Trump gives U.S. negotiators room to lift export controls on China, essentially saying, hey, Besant, if you really need to get the deal done and, we're just trying to cross the finish line, maybe you can say, hey, we'll let Nvidia sell chips back into the country, which would be really good for Nvidia if you guys give us rare earth minerals or you buy more of our soybeans or whatever else the United States wants. So this is super bullish today because, number one, it showed a willingness from Trump in good faith to be able to say, hey, you guys can get more of what you want. If you really want our chips, here's a way you can get access to it. You're going to have to give up some things, which is really good. China really wants those chips because they want to be dominant in AI. And Nvidia really wants that revenue. And this is the point of a negotiation. All three sides should win, right? All parties involved should win. Nvidia should get the revenue. China should get the AI chips. And the US should get whatever they want from China. In this case, I think it's probably around rare earth minerals. Why does this matter for Nvidia? Nvidia would do $53 billion of revenue in Q2 instead of the $45 billion they guided for. If they were able to sell their chips into China, they would get another additional $8 billion of revenue. Unfortunately, that's not going to be happening until these export controls are negotiated away. If the export controls do get negotiated away, I think there's a world where it becomes very obvious where Q3 revenues can ramp up again with China. That would be a massive tailwind for the stock. All the earnings estimates that still have the stock at around 180, 200 would be a lot more solidified if Nvidia can grab that revenue. Would be good for gross margins, would be good for net income, etc. And what would really be important is what we get from China, because if we can give them the chips, which Trump can press one button and boom, Nvidia can sell chips back into China. But Nvidia can open up an entire industry for us in whatever way that Besant wants to negotiate this for. This is not only good for Nvidia. It's not only good for the United States. It's obviously good for China. It's really good for the S&P 500. It's good for the broader market because if Trump opens up more business coming into the United States in general, great for the economy, great for GDP growth. Nvidia, 7% of the S&P 500, really good for Nvidia. And then obviously the entire macro gets a little bit more of a tailwind because you've got the best company in the world that's working in China from a global perspective, and you've got a concession from China because of that company that is now able to sell their product, and that concession hopefully also creates more economic fruitfulness for the rest of the rest of the investing population. And from that perspective, I think this is a very important pawn in this chess match. And I've been saying for the past couple of weeks that Nvidia is being used as a pawn in the China trade negotiations that are taking place. And I think Jensen knows this, and Jensen's been doing a good job working with China. He's in Europe right now, working with the European Parliament. He's done a very good job not saying that Trump's on the Epstein list and being able to work with Trump. And essentially, I think Trump came up to him and said, hey, you're going to have to take a hit for a couple quarters, but we're going to get you guys back into China. Just help us out right now. And I think Jensen was like, all right, cool. Do what you guys got to do. We're going to, deal with the ramifications of it. But eventually he knows that revenue is going to be coming back, which is going to be very bullish for Nvidia. So that's the first update on Nvidia. The second update on Nvidia is Cursor AI. This is a company that is an AI coding assistant. That's basically all you need to know about them. They are raising $900 million in a Series C funding. They're a startup. They are now doing $500 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue. They were doing $100 million in January. Let me say that again. This is a startup. It's an AI coding assistant. The only reason they're available is because of NVIDIA GPUs and models that have been trained on those GPUs to make this startup even possible in today's day and age. They were doing 100 million in January. They have 5x revenue in 5 months, all because of Nvidia. This is speaking to a level of growth that I don't think any of us in our lifetimes have ever seen. And robotics is going to be the next big part. Self-driving is going to be the next big thing. This is probably why Tesla's getting a multiple, even if the earnings are not the best. We are seeing and witnessing a revolution of growth that I don't think we've ever seen before. And it's happening because of Nvidia. It's happening because of the backbone infrastructure that is Nvidia and these GPUs ushering us into the age of AI. So Cursor AI being able to 5x revenue in 5 months, I think they're raising at a $10 billion valuation, and essentially be built off of these Nvidia GPUs, to me just signals there's going to be a lot more companies like Cursor that, yes, that will have ramifications for jobs and productivity and all that stuff, but it really means that you want to be invested in the companies that are playing a role in this ecosystem. Obviously, the Microns, the Broadcoms, the TSM, all of these companies in the semiconductor ecosystem make sense, and I think they're going to be a lot bigger than they are 5 years from now. But to me, Nvidia is the daddy, right? It is the big daddy when it comes to getting all this set up. AMD obviously is going to do great, but I think you kind of can't fade Nvidia when you see this. And then the other update we had today on Nvidia, last update right here, OpenAI has reportedly from CNBC hit $10 billion in recurring revenue this year, up from $3.7 billion last year. Most people, well, Chris Camillo today, who's invested in OpenAI, he's hearing that this is sandbagged. He thinks it's actually 15 billion. If OpenAI, which projections are by 2030, they'll be doing 125 billion in revenue. If that's underestimate, if they're going to do like something like 200 billion in revenue, the company's only worth 300 billion right now. OpenAI is absolutely going to $1 trillion. And to get those hundreds of billions of revenue, they're going to need a lot more GPUs. This is very, very bullish for Nvidia. All right, next update today is Robinhood. Big one today for Robinhood. So Vlad Tenev, the CEO of the company, was with Brad Gerstner at the Invest America Roundtable. Now, what is the Invest America Roundtable? This is a piece of legislation that Brad Gerstner, who is an investor in Robinhood now, he invested about $120 million in Q1, came up with for the past year. It is going to be passed through the big, beautiful bill. And essentially, the piece of legislation says that Americans will be able to get $1,000, newborn Americans, inside of their accounts in order to be invested in the S&P 500. Here's President Trump explaining what it is.
So they've come up with some fantastic ideas. We're putting them into use. They're really the greatest business minds we have today. These men and women lead large, successful companies, and they're committed to contributing millions of dollars to the Trump account. And it's really, it's going to be something incredible for children and for their employees in many cases. Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick. Right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be a good idea. I think we might do that, Michael Dell.
Now, what's really funny about this is that Trump named it Trump accounts. So they're literally called Trump accounts, which is quite incredible. But the point is that this is the best piece of legislation ever, in my opinion. Like, there's so much bipartisan support for this, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's one of the good parts of about the big, beautiful bill. Newborns in this country, 3.5 million of them every year. We give them $1,000, $3.5 billion. That's nothing for the federal government. Like, I would absolutely love my tax dollars going into this type of initiative. And that $1,000 they can't touch for 25 years, and their parents get to be a guardian over it. And as a result, it gets to compound and work in the success of the United States. So if you're betting on the United States, you are literally betting that these kids will have a better financial future. They will become more financially literate. Imagine an 18-year-old at 18 years old, you see that you have $35,000 already. Like, that's a big deal for someone in terms of just thinking they're an owner. They're not just someone who's participating in the economy. They are owning part of the economy. It's a very big deal. It's a great piece of legislation. Today, it clicked in my head. Today, it's like a brick that just hit me in the face. I didn't realize Brad Gerstner bought $120 million of Robinhood in Q1. He's been liking my posts over the past couple months about Robinhood. Brad Gerstner is pushing this initiative. And then you get Vlad, who posted this today. This right here is the demo they've been working on, which is pretty damn crazy. They have literally built a demo of what the Invest America platform would look like on Robinhood. And it's something that they're going to be able to unveil and get out into the world. I'm putting two and two together right now. Gerstner is investing in Hood. Hood has already built a mock-up of what the platform would look like. They have the tech, they have the talent, the infrastructure to do it way better than any of these other companies could do it, just in terms of the speed of innovation, getting it out there, etc. And they didn't build this overnight. They built this, probably for the past month, which means they've probably been in contact with Gerstner's team or the Trump administration to be able to build a mock-up of what this looks like. And to me, that's very exciting because the thesis on Hood just became bigger than I could have ever imagined. Let's say Robinhood, let's get super bullish. Let's say Robinhood gets all 3.5 million accounts. They become the de facto platform to custody all the money that the government gives to these newborns every single year. That's 3.5 million accounts that Robinhood is getting every year on their platform, locked in basically for life, that get to grow their wealth on the platform via assets under custody that Robinhood gets to manage. Now, let's say it's not 100%. Let's say it's 50%. Let's say it's 10%. Like, the point is, if they prove they are one of the best platforms to do this, and they have all the technology and engineering talent to be able to build this, and then they get people's parents to invest on Robinhood because they're recognizing how good the platform is, and maybe Robinhood gives you a 2% match instead of doing it with Schwab or Fidelity, which might be competing for these types of assets. You do it on Robinhood because they match that $1,000. I mean, there's a lot of ways where when we talk about the wealth transfer, which has been kind of the overarching thesis for Robinhood, this can get really exciting really quickly. I bought 100 shares today at $70.65. The S&P 500, unfortunately, they didn't get in. The S&P 500 didn't pick any companies. If you were on that market close stream on Friday, it was pretty hilarious. I was at the airport. We were waiting for an hour. We didn't get the update. 5 hours later, we find out that Bloomberg reports there's no rebalance for the first time in 3 years. Very weird. But this is, I mean, like, the fact that Robinhood's holding 70 right now, it's not because it was just built on S&P hype. It's because the market's recognizing, wait a second, not only is the company growing, not only do they have a generational founder, but when we're talking about the wealth transfer and millions of Americans, newborn kids that are going to grow up for the next 18 years that are not going to be on Schwab and Fidelity because, like, those platforms are outdated when it comes to the youth that are going to want to interact with what's going on, it might end up being Robinhood. And if that's the case, I think that would be very, very exciting for this company. Now, what the other thing that's really important about this right now is that if Robinhood is able to pull this off and they're able to kind of meaningfully create this ecosystem, all of the network effects that a technology company gets benefits from are only going to be compounding inside of Robinhood's ecosystem. And I think, quite frankly, they will be included in the S&P 500 one day. But even without the S&P 500, this is a stock. If the S&P 500 gets to all-time highs and Robinhood is the beneficiary of not only building a massive crypto platform, which is another tailwind that's happening in June, but also they are now a de facto platform for kids that as soon as they're born, they invest on Robinhood. This is a triple-digit stock. And it's going to happen. I mean, like, we can all tell this is what's going to happen. As long as they can keep up the growth, they still have a ton of bear cases in terms of the cyclicality of the market, but they are diversifying dramatically and they are becoming the platform that people want to go to. And if that's the case, you got users, you got distribution, you have network effects, and you have the speed of innovation that Vlad and the team have shown us. I think this just becomes a very, very exciting next decade for Robinhood. All right, real quick, Apple. Don't have too much of an update. They introduced liquid glass, some new type of technology that they're working on when it comes to, like, the first new display they've had in 10 years since the Retina display. They introduced some software updates. I mean, Dan Ives, even today, was a super big Apple bull. He says, look, they've got 9 months to get their shit together. And he said he gave them like a B- on their presentation today. No one's excited about Apple. Now, maybe that's a good contrarian bet to buy Apple right here because no one's excited and eventually they're going to ramp up. But, dude, this is my iPhone. You guys see this? All cracked up. Like, I'm not buying a new iPhone even with this because there's just no point. And so I don't think they're going to have some massive growth in sales. AI-powered series not here yet. The Vision Pro is a flop. Just not excited about Apple. They also nuked my stream. I was trying to watch it live with everybody in the chat, and they nuked us. I don't know why they had to nuke this. They nuked me and Tanner, but it is what it is. Apple's not too exciting. There's not that much of an update because, quite frankly, there really isn't that much to talk about. And if you're an Apple shareholder, then, it is what it is in the context of Apple. I think they will eventually kind of figure this out, but it's hard to allocate capital to Apple right now. All right, last thing we're going to be talking about is Palantir. I have an interview coming out, or a podcast coming out with Mike Gallagher on Saturday. I think a lot of you guys will enjoy that one. Should be fun. Should be exciting for people to listen to. And it was one of the best podcasts I think he's ever done. He's head of defense at Palantir. So we'll talk more about that, or you guys will be able to see that on Saturday. I've given my thoughts pretty much over the past couple of weeks on Palantir in terms of what's going on with the brand damage. And I hate that these influencers and weird videos and articles are coming out saying Palantir is an evil company. I don't think that's the case. We'll probably discuss it more in depth in future episodes. I want to leave you guys with a 2-minute clip from Mike Solana, who has the Pirate Wires podcast. I think he did a pretty good job breaking down why Palantir is not evil, why they're not trying to take over the world, and why, quite frankly, people just have a fundamental misunderstanding of the architecture of this platform. Would love to know any counterpoints that people have, but my opinion is very simple. And I'm trying to say this in the least biased way possible. Obviously, I love the company. I care about the company a lot, but they're not building a master database to surveil Americans. Palantir actually is the opposite, based on what Karp said on Friday, which we all know about, given we studied the company, is the last platform you would use to actually build a surveillance database on people. I just think headlines are boring in the current day. The media got bored. They decided to paint Palantir as a big boogeyman. And that's why we're seeing some of the hate that Palantir is getting right now. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow on The Market Open.
The general audience doesn't know or care about Palantir at all. It's the media that is perpetuating this myth of spookiness. And they do know better, or should, or they shouldn't be writing about tech. So what Palantir is a tool for making sense of vast amounts of data. Home Depot uses it, trying to figure out like which fertilizer to buy in which location and things like this. The European government early on used it to help find child sex predators. And right now, our government is going to be using it to make sense of the data in the various siloed off places. We have everything from like what the tax one to the healthcare stuff. It's like, this is the government's data, and they're using a tool to make sense of it all, to like help navigate hundreds of millions of names. And so if you have a principled opposition to the government collecting any data at all, I'd be like, okay, I used to be an anarchist, I get it. But that's not what this is, because you can make the exact same argument against Palantir that against like Excel or something. Oh, is Excel compiling the data of Americans, or, is Gmail a tool for spying because the CIA uses it or something, or whatever email client they're using? It's like, of course not. The real reason they're going after Palantir, there are two reasons. One is the Peter Thiel Association / Alex Karp Association, and he's associated with the right, and so they want to fucking kill him. And number two, because it actually is very useful. It's a tool that's very good, and it's going to help the government do its job. So again, I feel like the correct criticism that I would accept is a criticism of the government itself, and that's just a libertarian critique.
I didn't see in the story like an argument that Palantir shouldn't be doing this.
The framing is that this spooky company is compiling your data. It's like, of course, they lie in the same way. It's not like an overt lie. It's a lie by... It's like you just frame things in a certain way as to lead people to be upset, and you can just look at the reaction to know if they succeeded or not. Everybody is currently terrified about this brand new thing that's happening. Why? It's because of the news.